Okay, so I've just started the recording. So this is for everyone who wasn't able to make it to class on the 30th of the 3rd, period 1 and 2. A few little announcements. We need to be preparing for online learning for the foreseeable future. Also, I've made a slight adjustment in the way that we mark the role. So I know a lot of you already saw it, but just for those who didn't, the way we're marking the role now is through a question in classwork. So if you go to classwork, there's going to be a topic, which is class role. There'll be all of our dates there. All you have to do is go into the correct date. So this morning was 30th of the 3rd, periods 1 and 2. And all you have to do is click yes to show that you're present, and then all your names will pop up so I know that you are there. Let's get started with today's work. What I'm going to do now is share a screen with you, and that is the PowerPoint for today. Please feel free to yell out, work in the chat. If I ask questions, please just type straight into the chat or just yell out. That's totally fine as well. So let's get started, guys. We are continuing on from Ligeia, where we had just written about how creepy he was. So, can everyone see the PowerPoint currently? Can everyone see that PowerPoint?
Yep.
Okay.
Relationships and text.
All right, thank you guys. Can you please just write this down as a subheading, or if you're doing a Word document, I don't mind, just making sure we get this information down, and we'll do a little bit of discussion as we move along. So what we've been looking at is, obviously in Ligeia, we have our two main and only characters. We have the narrator, who remains nameless, as always in virtually all Edgar Allan Poe short stories. And then we have Ligeia. So one of the core aspects of this is obviously going to be their relationship. Their relationship is going to be really important. What we're going to look at today, whoever is drawing on my PowerPoint, what we're going to look at today is what relationships in text look like and what they reveal as well. So really, really quickly, just very basic. Relationships can be healthy. They can be toxic. They can be selfish. They can be one of many, many things. And relationships absolutely have a massive impact on the way in which we talk to each other, the way in which we see ourselves, and form a huge part of our lives. So if you could all write that down for me, that would be fantastic. I'm going to try and get the chat up again, but I'm not sure if I can do it with the share screen. Can anyone see the chat with the share screen?
No.
Oh, hold on, I've got it here. Can you all see that chat on the screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So what I want everyone to think about is, and you don't have to write this down or anything along those lines, what impact do relationships have in your life? So I want you to, oh, hold on, I'm messaging Ali privately. I need to send to all. All right, sorry guys, still learning. What impact do relationships have in your life? So you don't have to reply or anything, but I do want you to be thinking about that idea because this text is mainly based on a relationship. Okay, so continuing on, I'm going to just get rid of that. Relationships in text often reflect parts of relationships we find difficult to confront in our own lives. So what this means is that when we think about text types, whether that be poetry or short stories or films or movies, what happens in those texts is they often represent things that we find difficult to confront because it is this cathartic release of what things could be like, but we don't have to experience them. So if we watch a film, we might be curious about a really toxic, terrible relationship. That film is able to represent that. And the reason we're so interested in it is because we don't want to confront that in real life. We're more than happy to watch it in a film or a TV show or read it in a book, but we're not so happy to look at that in our own lives, obviously, because that's really dangerous. So where authors become, I guess, quite creative and brave in their writing or filmmaking or whatever the text type is that they create these things that we're interested and curious about, but don't want to actually live through. So we're going to use this as our, I guess, major idea in the Telltale Heart. Sorry, not Telltale Heart, in Ligeia. So here's a question that I'm going to put forward to everyone, and I will get you to start writing this in the chat. So the question is, at this point, what is the relationship between the narrator and Ligeia revealing? So I don't want you to necessarily think about what does the relationship look like. I want you to think more conceptually. What does their relationship reveal about ourselves? Yeah, so I will write that into the chat, and I would like everyone to just reply straight into the Zoom group chat, okay? Please get started. Okay, so I'm going to read through a few of your responses in regard to that question. What does the relationship between the narrator and Ligeia reveal about ourselves? So I'm going to jump up to Marissa's and read that out. The relationship between the narrator and Ligeia appears one-sided, and it seems like their relationship is based on a physical connection rather than an emotional one. And this is a really good point to start thinking about obsession. When the relationship is one-sided, obsession can, not always, but become more prevalent and become like a real, I guess, threat to a relationship. I'm going to move down to Holly's, and I think Holly's is really insightful as well. The relationship reveals that the human brain has an obsession with things and that they have strong emotions with, even love. And I think this is really telling of us, something that we may not feel comfortable confronting all the time, but it is very easy to become obsessed with things, and obsession is dangerous. So this notion that Edgar Allan Poe was putting to us, that we're always on the precipice of falling into obsession and falling into those dangerous thought patterns, I think is really revealing about our own humanity. So thanks for that, Holly. I might read one more. Kenny's is really good as well. It's quite similar to Marissa's. Let's have a look at Isra's. The relationship between the narrator and Ligeia highlights the emotional attachments we as humans have. It makes us reconsider our decisions and can make you become a completely different person, whether that's positive or negative. And I think that's a really good point as well, that we're just this roller coaster of emotions, and love or obsession can really put us to these different extremes in our emotions. So thank you everyone for those answers. I will move on. So I'm just going to get rid of this chat, and I'm just going to move on to the next slide. Is everyone with me?